to another up close video. Today's one is for Tonic Stamp Club number 27, which is called One in a Melon. So you can tell it's going to be a funny punny kind of stamp club, and it's also fruit themed as well. And you've got tons of different images in here. You've got pears, lemons, apples, peaches and avocado, strawberries, cherries, raspberries, lemons, limes, watermelons, all sorts of different fruits in here. I'm not sure if an avocado is classed as a fruit. I guess it is because it's got a seed in the middle of it. But yeah, all sorts of different ones that have punny sentiments to go with them. You've also got a pair of glasses, so you can anthropomorphise all of the fruits in here as well and give them little characters. And you have two different faces that you can use to do that as well. And I'm sure you could squeeze them onto some of the smaller images too, and maybe even like make the pip of the avocado have a different face to the actual main body of the avocado and stuff as well. And all of the images have a die that coordinates with them, plus I think all of the sentiments will fit into either a stamped image that then has a coordinating die, or just these two little banner dies that are down here as well. So technically every single stamp on the stamp set has a die to cut it out, but you're also getting a few extras in the die set as well, some different words. You've got the word hugs, hello and fruitiful, so you can do a lovely pun. In my tutorial video, which will go up tomorrow, I actually said, oh hang on, they don't actually give you anything that goes with the word fruitiful, so I actually added have a and birthday to make it say have a fruitiful birthday. But then as I was coming back to make some more cards, I realised you can do hello fruitiful, so you do actually have something in there to be able to turn fruitiful into a sentiment as well. I thought I'd better say that just in case anybody picks up on that in your tutorial video, but there is actually one that will go with that, which is good. So let's have a look at the stamp set. I'll show you it up close and then I'll show you all of the dies that coordinate, and there are a lot of coordinating dies for this set. So you've got a citrus slice, which can be lemon, orange or lime. You've got lots of different little leaves actually that could be used for different like herbs or something to go with some kind of like fruit smoothie, or you know, some sort of group scene that you're creating for something. But there's 3 different ones so that you can put different ones on different fruits as well. If you know what kind of leaf that kind of fruit usually has, you've got different ones to be able to add them on. And you've also got different sizes as well, so if you wanted to add a leaf to the little blueberry, you've got a tiny little leaf that you could do that with. Then you've got a pear, you've got an ice cube, you've got a lemon, and you actually have here this little speckly stamp, so you can actually get that kind of like lemon peel or orange peel kind of look to the outside of this as well, which is really lovely. You've got an apple, you've got a little flower, so you can have like the flowers with the leaves and like the lemons. I think they look fantastic together, or I did actually use the flower with the pear as well. You've got these 2 little faces, so this one's almost looks like it's blushing to me, and then a smiley face that you can add on to all sorts of the different fruits in the set. You've got a strawberry, you've got a tiny little blueberry, or it could be like a miniature little cherry tomato or something, depending on the scale of everything in your scene. You could turn that into a little tomato, but it is a tiny little blueberry. You've got a raspberry, you've got a little pair of cherries, you've got a peach, you've got the avocado cut in half, and one of the dies that actually, I think it is actually supposed to go with that. You actually do have a circle die that cuts out the pip of the avocado as well, so you could do different sort of layered or decoupage kind of ideas with that too, which is nice. Or you could even cut it as an aperture and have shaking bits behind it as well for a different kind of look. You've got the little glasses, which I used the glasses, I think I did. No, maybe I didn't use it on the avocado in the end. I definitely used it on the pear though. I think they'd look fantastic on the apple. You could even have like the lemon sideways and have the glasses on it. And the peach, they'd probably fit quite nicely on the peach as well. You could even like build an entire character with different limbs and stuff from the different fruits. You could have like lots of the blueberries, you could make it look like a bunch of grapes or something to be a hand, or you could build up like a stack of different fruits to be like a leg or something. So I think you could have fun with building all of those different pieces together to actually create a kind of like fruit character as well. Then you've also got this kind of little circle one here, which I actually just used all over to create a cool background, a subtle background to go behind my avocados, but you could definitely use that as some kind of texture for one of the fruits as well, especially if you're doing the outside of the fruit, because don't forget these haven't got like perspective on them, they're just like the flat shape, so they could be the outside of the fruit or they could be the cross section of the inside of the fruit as well. So it's quite nice to do that. And if you wanted to do some selective inking, you probably could like not ink the pip of the avocado and make it look like the outside as well if you wanted to do that. Then you have got a straight straw with a diagonal pattern on it, and you also have a little bent straw as well, again with that diagonal kind of stripy pattern. You've got a tiny little cocktail umbrella, so you can have that in a different drink. Maybe you've got some other vessels for drinks and stuff from a different stamp set, or in this stamp set you actually have like a mason jar kind of style vessel for your drink to go in, whether this is water. You could even combine this with flowers and have it as like a vase for flowers, or you can turn it into like a tropical cocktail. It could be like an alcoholic drink, it could be a fizzy drink, whatever you kind of want to turn this into. It could be a smoothie as well. So you've got that vessel. You also have a bowl as another vessel for grouping all of your items together. So you could have lots of strawberries in there, raspberries, loads of little blueberries, the little cherries as well. I should think maybe most of the other ones are a little bit too big, but all of those smaller ones will look really lovely in the bowl. You've also got a couple of different plaques that a lot of the sentiments fit inside. So you've got like this inverted corner kind of little plaque, and then this one with like the points at the four corners of the compass. You've got like the little points with the swoop in between. So two different versions, and this one you could twist this way as well if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be the way that it is on here. And this one you could have as a diamond as well. You could even just stamp this all over a background to create like a blocked tile kind of look for a background as well. You've got another little leaf actually. I didn't really use this one in the end, so I only really mentioned those other three leaves up there, but you do have this little tiny little like branch of leaves, which does also have a coordinating die for it too. You've got a tiny little citrus wedge, so it's smaller than this kind of citrus, and actually this one could be a grapefruit as well, and then this one is more like lemons, limes and stuff, and this one could be grapefruit and orange. If you were going to use them together, they've got like the little bit of scale between them. And then finally for the images, we've got a big slice of watermelon as well, which goes really nicely with the name of the stamp set, which is One in a Melon. And you've also got a melon sentiment in here as well. You've actually got two. Yeah, you've got Thanks a Melon down here, so you can put that in either of those two kind of label shapes, but you do also have your One in a Melon as well, and you've got two little banners in the die set that work for those longer sentiments. You've got You Make a Great Pear, which I used in one of my cards with a couple of pears. You've got Avo Great Day for your avocados. You've got Have a Sweet Birthday, Thank You Very Much, I love that kind of sentiment, Hope Your Day is Peachy, and then Have the Zest Day. So all punny little sentiments, but also you could definitely use all of these items without the puns as well. Or if you wanted to make them more festive as well, for example, if you know somebody who has their Christmas in a hotter climate, you could do some kind of Christmas card with all of these fun tropical fruits and stuff on there. Or you could even bring in something from a Christmas stamp set that you have or die set and add little hats. If you're going to put the glasses on them to turn them into little characters, you could have them wearing a Santa's hat and stuff as well for like an alternative sort of Christmas card too. So a lovely set of gorgeous fruit themed stamps with the punny sentiments. And then all of these dies, I've still got my dies on the actual acetate here, because I was just kind of using them and putting them back rather than putting them on here. But I will show you every single die that coordinates, and there is one for every single image. So we've got the pear, then we've got the lemon, and the avocado, which, as I was saying before, there is also a die in here to correspond with the pip of the avocado as well. But there is, again, also another circle die that coordinates perfectly with that citrus segment there. And I actually use these two circles just by themselves to create a background for a card that I did with the melon slices on that I'll show you later on as well. And then talking of the melon, we have the die to cut out the slice of melon as well. We've got the die that cuts out that mason jar. We've got one that cuts out the apple. Oops, don't move everything. I don't want to lose all of them because there's so many little dies in this set. Then we've got one that cuts the bowl out. One for the peach, the cherries, the little leaf that I mentioned down here, the little set of leaves on a little branch. We've got this longer kind of leaf here. We've got the flower, that's got a die that coordinates. The tiny little ice cube even has a die that coordinates. We've got the little leaves that I was telling you about before up here, the slightly larger sort of medium-sized leaf, and then even the tiny little leaf here has a coordinating die. We have also got the strawberry, the tiny little blueberry even has a die to cut out the blueberry, and we've also got the raspberry. Then we have the straight straw, the bent straw, and also the cocktail umbrella. Then we've got that citrus slice down there that also has a die to coordinate. Then these two sort of plaque pieces, they've got their dies to coordinate with those as well. So any of those sentiments, you can either stamp them inside this stamped image and then die cut them, or you could just stamp them onto the die cut as well. Either way would work depending on what kind of card you're going for and whether that kind of stamped outline works on your card or not, because you know sometimes it just doesn't work and sometimes you really need that kind of outline. Then we also have this for the glasses, and we also have this tiny little die here. Oops, I don't want to lose this one, it's really tiny. It's a tiny little like triangle with a curved back, almost looks like a tiny little wedge of pizza, and you can actually use this to cut out the pieces of this stamped image in particular, of that citrus piece. But if you didn't want to do that, you could if you wanted to. If you love tiny little die cuts and you really wanted all of your fruit to be die cut, but you wanted the apples and pears, which you have some extra die cuts for and I'll show you in a second, but you also wanted some citrus fruit on there, but you didn't want the stamped image, you wanted them to be die cut, you can actually die cut your circle and then die cut like 6 of these and place them together like this, but have your die cut version as well. So you could die cut bits of the stamped image if you want to, layer them up, do some little like 3-dimensional aspects on your focal image, or you can actually put together some die cut pieces depending on what your crafting style is and how much time you like to spend on things. You've got options like that, which is really lovely. And then talking of like having the apples and pears, you could definitely just use them as silhouette kind of images if you didn't want to cut out your stamped images and you wanted it all to be die cut. But you also have these pieces that give you those interior sections of your apple and your pear, so you get like the cross section with the pip inside, and that's actually what I focused on in my tutorial video, which will be up tomorrow. I did a whole tutorial on how to create a background with die cuts, but not doing the usual method that I would normally do, where I'd cover the whole background in double-sided adhesive, stick all of the things down, and then use like confetti or glitter to fill in the rest of the adhesive. I showed you how you can just do it with die cutting and then using a bit of glue on the back of them to stick them all down, and we also did a bit of inlaid die cutting, swapping the interiors as well. Because you get these dies, I was actually cutting the two of them together to give me like a skeleton piece with a bit down the centre, plus the two halves as well, and then I cut them out of different colours and swapped them. So I'll show you that card a little bit later on, and that will be the tutorial video as well. But you have the capabilities of doing that as well, which is really nice. I actually hadn't noticed on the die set, but this is a standalone little leaf as well. So if you were going for that whole die cut kind of look, although you probably could get away with definitely using these smaller leaves just as die cut elements without the stamp on them, they still look like a leaf. You do actually have more of like a mint leaf as well, so you've got that option for your die cutting too. And if you wanted to have a fruit bowl and give it a little bit more detail, or possibly make it look like some kind of colander that you're washing your fruit in, you have got this extra layer that will go on top of that bowl, or you could just use it individually as a different bowl as well with some detail cut into it too. So you've got options for the little fruit bowl as well. Then finally we have these two extra standalone dies, which are the little banner dies. You've got one with the inverted corners and then one that is like a rounded rectangle. Really lovely shape, this one. I really like that one. And all of the longer sentiments will fit inside this, or either of these. So you've got the You Make a Great Pair, You're One in a Melon, and Avo Great Day. All three of those will fit inside both different die cuts as well. And I did actually have this left over. I didn't end up using it in the end. I felt like the sentiment needed to be in more of a rectangular fashion. I think I might have drawn a scribbly border around it as well. But I felt like that would work better on the card that I had created. But if not, this is another way of kind of layering up those little pieces together. And you can see how perfectly it'll cut out. And you don't have to worry about stamping your sentiment first and then die cutting. But if you want to, you can see through the die to be able to do that. But because of the way they have created these dies, they've put the cut line on the interior of the metal, so you can get away with die cutting this first and then stamping on it, because you're not going to get that weird embossed line where you might not be able to stamp the sentiment properly. So either way you can do it, which is really nice, depending on how you like to do your stamping. Then finally we have got 3 words in this set as well. So I'll put these on my magnetic sheet and then show you them up close as well. But we have the words fruitiful, hugs, and hello, and you can actually use them in different ways as well, which is nice. So you've got the word fruitiful, which you could, you've got bubbles for all of them, but for fruitiful you could cut the bubble and then cut the word fruitiful and stick these individual letters onto the solid bubble that you've cut. Or if you don't like doing really fiddly sticking, you can just cut the both of them together and then you get a solid piece that has the wibbly edge that follows everything, but it has the fall away letters and both are legible. So you can use the individual letters to spell the word out, or you can use the sort of like more like waist piece as well. Then you've got the word hugs, which you can do the same thing with. You can like cut that little bubble, cut the letters individually, stick them on, or you can cut the both together and use more of like the outside piece, which I'll show you on one of my cards as well. And then you also have the word hello, which does work in that same fashion as well. Although I think the card that I've used it on, I did just cut the hello and stick it on top of a solid bubble. But you can actually do the, I think I showed it in my tutorial video actually. I'd cut both of them together and had the outline kind of piece, and that's also another alternative way of creating an inlaid kind of die cut background, because you could cut a bunch of hellos with the bubble together, then you'd have the skinny outside edge plus the word, and you could switch them around with their different colours to create a word kind of background as well. So many different ways of using just the dies and the stamps, and you can build up all sorts of different scenes with these cards. I think I've got 6 cards to show you, so I'll just put all of these dies away so I don't lose them, and then I will come back and show you my samples as well. Okay, so these are my 6 samples that I have got. This is the tutorial card video. So tomorrow's tutorial is showing you how to actually create the opposite version of this one. I'd already created this one to show at the beginning of the video, but the other version, actually this might be the version that I made in the tutorial. I'm not sure now. I can't remember which way round they were, but the other version has light purple apple outlines and dark purple apple middles, and then the opposite for the pairs. So it saves you on the die cutting. You can actually get 2 cards out of the same amount of die cutting for the 1 card, which is really nice. So that is tomorrow's video. I show you exactly how you can create this kind of a background, so I won't go into too much detail on that one. Then I ran out of time to properly colour this one, but I wanted to show you how easy it is to build a scene with all of the different fruits and stuff in here. So I've got a couple of the lemons. One I added a leaf to. If you add the leaf to it when you're stamping, you're going to have to fussy cut it, because that lemon I fussy cut out. But if you do them separately, then you've got the dies for both of them, and then you can just put them back together when you put them together on your card. But yeah, you have dies to cut everything out, so you can easily create a whole scene with it without having to do any masking or having to think about what you want where on the card. You can just like stamp them all individually, die cut them all out, and then create your own sort of layout afterwards. And you can see here how some of those smaller fruits fit really nicely into the bowl as well. And it's quite nice to sort of add some of them across the card to kind of balance it too. Then we've got the lemons here because of the lemons in the drink as well. And you can play around with 2 straws, 1 straw. I kind of liked hiding the bottom of the straw to make it look a bit more like maybe it's going into the drink that's in there. But you could definitely do some masking with this if you didn't want the straw to kind of look quite so out of place. You don't really notice it until you look at it properly, the fact that the straw's going in front of the lip here, but you could definitely do a little bit of masking if you wanted to. But then you would have to fussy cut around the mason jar and the straw together rather than being able to use your dies to cut them out. So it's kind of like, what do you prefer to do? And then this is showing you the sentiment stamped inside, which fits absolutely perfectly. And I just love that. Thank you very much. So that's why I've got quite a few berries on that side of the card as well. So just a sort of idea of a layout really. But this could be actually one of those cards that you send a kid and then they can colour it in. So it's like one of the sort of colour your own kind of cards, which might be quite a nice idea. You can have a fun play around with some different layouts and then you get some cards to give to your children to colour in or something as well. So that is that one. Then this one, I created my own kind of like background paper using the blueberries, the strawberry, the cherry and the raspberry as well. And then I just literally tried to sort of space them all out as I was going. I was just stamping them with an acrylic block to make it really quick and simple. And then I used my alcohol pens to colour them in. And then to fill in the background a little bit more, I definitely could have taken either of those dotty stamps from the stamp set, but I just decided to use a really light alcohol pen and just do some dots in the background, but you definitely could use some of the stamps from the set as well. Then I sort of matted this onto a couple of tiny slivers of card that I had coloured with the same green pen that I'd used on here, just to tie that green across. And then for the Hello Fruitiful, I coloured the hello with the 2 blues that I'd used for the blueberries, and then I coloured the backing bubble. So I cut both dies together to give me the white one, and then I cut just the bubble and I coloured it with the pink to the sort of corally reddy colour to the deep cherry red kind of colour, and then just backed it behind. So I got all of the colours within the sentiment and these little strips up the side. I thought that was quite a nice different way of adding a little bit of colour to the sentiment. And then the strip down the side of the card is actually the straight straw stamped multiple times with clear ink and then heat embossed with white embossing powder. And I thought it's just a nice way of giving yourself kind of like a background stamp really, because it does sort of just look like random lines in a background, but it's just created with that straw stamp, stamping it multiple times. So it's quite nice to be able to have a few stamps in the set that are multi-purpose. So that's that card. Then I did this card, which is your one in a melon card, which is what I had done this sentiment for. I don't know if you can kind of tell what I mean. Like, I didn't feel like that one went because the watermelons have got that outline to them. I felt like my sentiment needed an outline, so I decided to go with that one instead. But it is like personal preference, really. I felt like having a scribbly black border around the edge would work better for this card. Underneath my 2 watermelons, I got some of this like muslin cheesecloth stuff. And I was making some shabby chic vintage cards recently, and I just really enjoyed cutting like a rectangle of this, pulling out lots of the threads on the edges and then folding it over as an alternative to using vellum or tulle behind something. I just thought it was a really cool kind of different way of using it. And the background on this one was using those 2 dies. So this one's supposed to cut out that citrus piece and this one's supposed to cut out the pip of the avocado, but I've just cut them into my card panel and then used the fall away pieces, raised them up on a little bit of 3D foam and added them elsewhere on the card as well. And then I've just done the 2 slices of the melon on there as well. So I quite like how that's turned out. Very simple, and to make it look a little bit more special, if you catch it in the light, I just use one of those clear Sakura Stardust jelly roll pens. Just add a little bit of sparkle, really subtle sparkle in there, so the recipient can kind of see that sparkle in there. And actually, the way this has sort of frayed here, I feel like a couple of white feathers would look really nice behind a focal point on a card actually. But yeah, I just thought that cheesecloth kind of thing would work quite nicely there. Then I've also used it on the background of this card as well, but this one is using the avocado. So I've stamped 3 of them and coloured them all the same, but I decided to stamp different faces. So the one in the middle kind of looks like he's maybe being hugged by the other 2, and then you've got the other face on the other 2 of them, but I stamped them at different angles. So this one's kind of leaning over more, rather than them all just being like regimented on the card. I decided to make him more leaning over, and then this one's face is slightly off to the side as well, just to make him look a little bit different. And then for the background, I used that little triple dot stamp, and I also mimicked it in that sparkly gel pen in a couple of areas, just to fill in extra white space but add a tiny little bit of sparkle as well. I just thought it was a nice different touch, and that little stamp just makes the perfect, really subtle background to make your focal elements really pop. And then we've got the Avo Great Day as the punny sentiment on there. So really simple, that one. Then I think this one is my favourite card. I did You Make a Great Pair, and then I sort of did them so you've got like slightly more of a masculine pair wearing the glasses, and then you've got the little feminine pair with the flower and some leaves in her hair, and she's got like the little rosy cheeks because I thought that face looks like she's blushing. And this card as well, I don't think I used anything else on any of the other cards, but I would have normally gone through my stash, found a circle die, probably the cross-stitch Tonic circles to be honest, and cut a circle of vellum to go behind here. But it's quite nice to kind of keep to the set to be able to show you what you can actually create from the set. So instead of doing a circle of vellum, this is 2 halves of the watermelon, or 2 slices of the watermelon. So the die that's supposed to cut the watermelon out, I just cut it twice from some vellum, and then I kind of placed this pair so he's mostly covering the seam of it, but it just adds that little soft kind of circle element behind them, but not actually using anything else other than what is in the Stamp Club, which I thought was quite nice. And then the same colours that I've used to colour them in, I've just done a few dots in the background to give that bokeh kind of look, and again I've used a little bit of that sparkly gel pen in a few places as well. And then for the actual main background, I had originally cut these pieces to create this card, and then in the tutorial video I show you how I've used the word hug in a lot of different places, and I had so many of these because I had cut these out for this card. So I just used the little letters hug from the interior of those pieces to do that tutorial card, but it looks lovely with them, like the little outlines as well. And it just gives another different element to your background as well, and it's much easier than sticking down the individual letters. You just instantly get the word, which is nice. So that is the final card that I created. I really loved how that one turned out. I loved the colouring that I managed to get. I just googled you know, like a conference pair or something to get the sort of different colourways, and I just went for slightly darker greens on this one, and then the lighter greens fading into a light yellow for the little feminine one as well. And then I used the same 2 light colours of the yellow and the green to colour a little bit of card to go behind the sentiment as well. So it does actually go from green to yellow back to green again. So those are all of the cards that I have created. So I hope you enjoyed this up close video looking at Tonic Stamp Club number 27, which is called One in a Melon. So hopefully this has given you a few ideas, either of like a layout of how you might want to lay things out, maybe some colouring schemes of how to colour in some of the images, maybe a different background idea, just using those circle dies to cut into the background. A couple of different ways to kind of create your own background paper with like the fruit designs, or just that tiny little dot design as well. And then also like an alternative to using vellum or tulle or something, using a little bit of frayed sort of cheesecloth or muslin behind bits and pieces, or diagonally across a strip as well. And then also showing you how you can just use the die that's supposed to cut out the watermelon a couple of times from vellum to create kind of like a little element to kind of give your card a little focal point where your pairs are sitting on there as well. So yeah, really hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you got inspired by some of the cards, and if you're interested in getting hold of Tonic Stamp Club number 27, I will leave affiliate links in the description box below the video, along with as many of the other things that I can link that I have shown in the video as well. And there will also be picture links of all of that on my blog post too, which is always linked in the description as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!